My parents handed my golden child sister $15,000 to buy a home. When I purchased mine 3 years ago, they didn't give me a cent. So, I told them precisely what I thought at family dinner. My name's Nate, I'm 33. I work in operations for a distribution company. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills, and I'm damn good at it. I've been there for 8 years, climbed my way up from a floor associate to operations coordinator. I own my house, my truck's paid off, and I've never asked anyone for a dime. Not because I'm too proud, though I might be a little, but because nobody ever offered. Let me give you a quick rundown on my family. There's my parents, Rick and Diane, and then there's me and my younger sister, Kelsey. She's 29. Growing up, Kelsey was the sun, and the rest of us were just planets orbiting around her. Look, I'm not saying this with bitterness anymore. I used to be bitter for years, but eventually, you either make peace with it or let it consume you. I thought I'd made peace. Or so I thought. Kelsey was the golden child, plain and simple. Straight A's on a roll, played violin, speech and debate, volunteered at the animal shelter, the whole 9 yards. My parents put her in private music lessons from 3rd grade. They drove her to debate tournaments 3 states away. They paid for SAT prep courses, college application coaches, and a private college that cost around $42,000 a year. They took out loans. They refinanced the house. All for Kelsey. And me? Nate's fine. Nate doesn't need anything. Nate handles himself. That's what they always said. And technically, it was true. I was a B student, played baseball in high school. Pretty good, not amazing. I worked at a hardware store after school from 15. Bought my own car at 17. Paid for community college myself, then transferred to state school. Graduated with minimal debt because I worked full-time while taking classes. No one drove me to tournaments. No one hired me a coach. No one refinanced anything for me. And I was fine. I need to be careful here, because I don't want to make it sound like my parents were monsters. They weren't. They showed up to some of my games. They said they were proud sometimes. My dad taught me to change the oil and fix a running toilet. My mom helped me move into my first apartment. They're not monsters. They just have a clear, undeniable, mathematically provable favorite. And it's not me. Here's a quick example that still stings. When Kelsey graduated from her private college, my parents threw a huge party, rented out a restaurant, invited 60 people, custom cake. My mom even made a slideshow. When I graduated from state school, summa cum laude, by the way, which they never mention, my dad just shook my hand and said, "Good job, bud." That was it. No party, no slideshow. Just good job, bud. I could give you 50 more examples. The time Kelsey wanted to study abroad in Italy, and my parents found a way to make it happen. $7,000 they supposedly didn't have. The same summer, I wanted to attend a 2-week baseball camp that cost $600, and my dad said, "We just don't have it right now, bud." That same summer, Kelsey got a new violin. I don't know what it cost, but it came in a case that looked like it belonged to a secret agent. Or the time I told my parents I got into state school with a scholarship covering half my tuition. My mom said, "That's great, honey," and in the same breath, started talking about Kelsey's sorority rush. I sat there holding my acceptance letter like a receipt nobody asked for. My dad eventually noticed and said, "We should celebrate. How about pizza this weekend?" We never got that pizza. Kelsey had a debate tournament that Saturday, and they drove her to Indianapolis. The thing that truly cemented it for me happened when I was 26. I'd just gotten my first real promotion, from floor associate to shift lead. It came with a raise and a new title. I was excited. I called my parents. My mom answered, and I told her the news. She said, "Oh, that's nice. Hey, quick question. Do you still have that air mattress? Kelsey's friend is visiting, and they need somewhere to sleep." I gave them the air mattress. I never brought up the promotion again. I learned something from all of this. Being the invisible kid teaches you to be self-sufficient in ways the favored kid never learns. I know how to budget because nobody was going to bail me out. I know how to work because nobody was going to pay my way. I know how to be alone because nobody was going to prioritize me. These aren't complaints, they're just facts, and they made me who I am. But that doesn't mean they didn't hurt. Anyway, let's fast forward to the dinner. 3 years ago, I bought my house. It's a 3-bedroom ranch in a decent neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. I saved for that down payment for 4 years. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, drove my old truck, packed lunches every single day, said no to vacations. When I finally closed, I was genuinely proud. I called my parents to tell them. My mom said, "That's wonderful, honey. Kelsey just got a promotion." Did you hear? I just said, "Congratulations to Kelsey." And that was the extent of the celebration. Nobody offered to help with the down payment. Nobody offered furniture. Nobody even came to see the house for 2 months. When they finally visited, my mom spent most of the time talking about how Kelsey's apartment had better natural light. I made a mental note and filed it in the drawer in my brain labeled things that hurt but aren't worth bringing up. You know, this whole situation is like they graphed their parental investment in us over 33 years, and it would look like a stock chart where one stock is Tesla and the other is a lemonade stand that the owner also had to build the table for. Kelsey was always the premium subscriber, and I was on a 33-year free trial. So, the dinner. This was 3 weeks ago. It was our weekly family dinner at my parents' house, something we'd been doing on and off for about a year. My mom's idea. She said she wanted the family to be closer. I went because it was an hour out of my week, and sometimes my mom makes legitimately great pot roast. That's the one thing I'll give her credit for without reservation. This particular dinner felt different from the start. My mom had set the table with the good plates, the ones she only uses for holidays or when important neighbors visit. There were candles. My dad was wearing a collared shirt, which is totally unusual for a Tuesday. Kelsey was there with her boyfriend, Bryce, who's fine. He's an accountant. He wears a lot of khakis. That's about all I know about Bryce. Dinner started normally enough. We talked about work. My dad asked Bryce about tax season. My mom talked about her garden. Her tomatoes aren't doing well, but she's emotionally committed to them. I even mentioned I'd gotten a good performance review and was in line for a raise. My mom said, "That's nice." My dad nodded. We moved on. Then Kelsey cleared her throat. She said she and Bryce had been looking at houses. They'd found one they loved, a 4-bedroom colonial on the other side of town, listed at $380,000. She was beaming. Bryce was nodding along like he'd rehearsed his supporting role. My parents were absolutely glowing. My dad had that specific expression I recognized from Kelsey's graduation party, the "my daughter is exceptional and I need everyone to know" face. And then my mom reached under the table and pulled out an envelope. I knew what it was before she even opened it. I could feel it in my chest. That thing where your body figures out what's happening before your brain does. She handed the envelope to Kelsey and said, "Daddy, and I want to help you start this new chapter." Kelsey opened it. Her eyes went wide. She looked at Bryce. Bryce looked at the check. Kelsey started tearing up and whispered, "Mom, this is $15,000. My mom was crying too. My dad put his arm around my mom and said, "We're so proud of you, sweetheart." $15,000. I just sat there. I didn't move. I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience, like I was watching a scene from someone else's life. Except it was my life. And I'd been watching this exact scene in different forms for 33 years. Let me be clear about what $15,000 means in context. 3 years ago, I scraped together $22,000 for my down payment. For years of saving, packed lunches, skipped trips, driving a truck with 200,000 miles on it. And my parents didn't offer a single dollar. Not even, "We'd love to help, but we can't." Nothing. It wasn't even a conversation that happened. I bought my house entirely alone. And now Kelsey, who makes good money, whose boyfriend is an accountant, who has had every advantage handed to her since kindergarten, gets $15,000 because she found a house she loved. I watched this whole scene unfold from my chair, and something inside me just failed. Like a pressure valve on an old pipe that's been holding for years, everyone just assuming it's fine because it's never leaked. That pipe was me. And the $15,000 check was the thing that finally cracked the seal. It wasn't even about the money. I need to be absolutely clear about that. If my parents had given me $15,000 when I bought my house, and then given Kelsey $15,000 now, I'd have been thrilled. Equal treatment, fair, done. But that's not what happened. What happened is they watched me struggle for 4 years to save a down payment, said nothing, did nothing, and then turned around and handed my sister a check with tears of joy, like they were awarding her the Nobel Prize in being their favorite. I don't know how long I sat there silently. It felt like 5 minutes. It was probably 30 seconds. Kelsey was hugging my mom. Bryce was shaking my dad's hand. My mom was wiping her eyes. And nobody looked at me. Not once. That's the part that broke something in me. Not the check. The check was just money. What truly shattered me was the complete, unconscious erasure. Like I wasn't even in the room. Like my reaction didn't matter because I was never part of this equation. I was furniture. I was the chair at the table that just happened to have a person in it. And I know what you're thinking. Just talk to them about it later. Don't make a scene. And yeah, that's probably the mature thing to do. That's probably what a well-adjusted, emotionally intelligent adult would do. But here's the thing. I've been the well-adjusted one my entire life. I've swallowed every slight, filed every hurt in that drawer. I've nodded along while Kelsey got the spotlight and I got a dismissive "that's nice." For 33 years, I've been the low-maintenance kid, the easy one, the one who's fine. I wasn't fine. My mom noticed I'd been quiet and said, "Nate, aren't you happy for your sister?" I looked at her. I looked at her for a long time. And I said, and I can remember every word because I've replayed it 100 times since, "Happy for her?" Yeah, Mom. I'm happy for her. I'm always happy for her. I was happy when you threw her a graduation party at a restaurant while Dad shook my hand in the driveway. I was happy when you drove her to tournaments while I took the bus to my games. I was happy when you refinanced the house to pay for her college while I worked 40 hours a week to pay for mine. And now I get to be happy that she's getting $15,000 for a house when you didn't give me a dime for mine. I am just overflowing with happiness right now. The table went dead silent. My mom's face crumbled. My dad's jaw clenched, that thing he does when he's angry but doesn't want to show it. Kelsey looked at me with wide eyes. Bryce studied his fork like it contained the answers to the universe and possibly an escape route. My dad was the first to speak. He said, "Nate, don't do this. Not tonight. This is Kelsey's moment." I said, "It's always Kelsey's moment, Dad." That's the whole problem. The room just froze. You know that feeling when everyone in a room holds their breath at the same time? That's what happened. Even Bryce, who normally has the emotional range of a filing cabinet, looked like he wanted to be literally anywhere else. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall above the kitchen sink. I could hear my mom's cat, Gerald, scratching at the back door. Yes, they have a cat named Gerald. Kelsey named him. They thought it was adorable. My mom started crying. Full-on crying. She said, "I don't understand where this is coming from. We've always treated you both the same." And I laughed. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because sometimes the lie is so big that the only response your body can produce is laughter. We've always treated you both the same. 20 years of evidence to the contrary sitting in a drawer in my brain, and she actually believes that. I said, "Mom, you haven't treated us the same. You've never treated us the same. And the worst part is you don't even see it. You genuinely don't see it." I've been the easy kid my whole life because I stopped asking for things I knew I wouldn't get. That's not being easy. That's giving up. Kelsey finally spoke. She said, "Nate, I didn't ask for this." I told her I knew, and I meant it. It's not Kelsey's fault our parents have a favorite. She didn't design this system. She just benefited from it, the same way I didn't design it, I just absorbed it. But here's what truly got me. She said, "Nate, I didn't ask for this." And then she paused and added, "Maybe you should have just asked them for help when you bought your house." Just asked. Like it's that simple. Like the kid who never got the party. Never got the coach, never got the restaurant, never got the check, was supposed to raise his hand and go, "Excuse me, may I please have some of what she's having?" That's not how it works when you've been trained your entire life to expect nothing. You don't ask because you've learned that asking just gets you a "that's nice" and a subject change. I stood up. I put my napkin on the table. I said, I love you guys, all of you, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend this is normal. And I walked out. I grabbed my jacket from the hook by the door, the same hook I'd been using since I was 12, and I left. I didn't slam the door. I didn't look back. I just walked to my truck, started the engine, and pulled out of the driveway that I'd pulled in and out of 10,000 times before. But this time, it felt different. Like I was leaving a building I'd been trapped in for a long time and finally found the exit. The drive home was weird. I was shaking a little, not from anger, but from the raw adrenaline of finally saying something. My whole body was buzzing. I pulled over twice because I couldn't focus on driving. I sat in a gas station parking lot for about 15 minutes, just breathing and staring at the dashboard. My truck still smelled like my mom's pot roast because she'd given me a container of leftovers as I walked in. Before the check, before everything went sideways, I still had the container on the passenger seat. I ate the pot roast when I got home. It was delicious. Even when your mom breaks your heart, her pot roast still hits. My buddy Connor from work texted me around 10 p.m. asking if I wanted to watch the game that weekend. I typed out a long message about what happened and then deleted it. Wasn't ready to talk about it yet. Just said, yeah, sounds good. That night, I got 3 texts. From Kelsey, I'm sorry you feel that way. I love you. I didn't respond. From my mom, you ruined a beautiful evening. I hope you'll apologize to your sister. I didn't respond. From my dad, that was dramatic, Nate. You need to calm down. I didn't respond. I stared at those 3 texts for a long time. Read them over and over. I even screenshotted them and sent them to my buddy Connor the next day with no context. He called me immediately and said, what happened? I told him. He said, dude, your mom told you to apologize to your sister for being upset that they gave your sister money they never gave you? I said, yeah. He was quiet for about 5 seconds and then said, I'd have flipped the table. I told him I considered it, but the table was too heavy. It wasn't. I just didn't want to ruin the pot roast. Those 3 texts, in their perfect, awful symmetry, told me everything I needed to know. Kelsey's, sorry you feel that way, not sorry for the disparity, but for my feelings. My mom thinks I ruined things, not that the underlying situation was unfair. My dad thinks I'm being dramatic after 33 years of being the least dramatic person in the family. I went about a week without talking to any of them. It was the longest I'd gone without contact since I moved out at 20. And it was quiet. Not peaceful quiet, more like the quiet after an argument where nobody knows who's supposed to call first. I went to work. I came home. I made dinner. I watched TV. I mowed the lawn on Saturday morning because that's what I do. I lived my normal life while my family was apparently imploding behind the scenes. I found out later from Aunt Patty that the week after the dinner was chaos on their end. My mom was crying daily. My dad was processing by retreating into the garage and working on projects. He's building a set of bookshelves for the den. He's been building them for 3 years, and they'll probably never be finished. Kelsey had gone quiet, too. Bryce apparently told his parents about what happened at dinner, and his mom said, that's exactly why I told you to always carry your own financial weight in a relationship. Bryce, bless his heart, did not relay this comment to Kelsey. During that week, Aunt Patty, my mom's sister, called me. She said my mom was devastated and couldn't understand why I was upset. I told Aunt Patty the whole story. All of it. The graduation party versus the handshake. The college payments versus working full-time. The house check versus nothing. Aunt Patty was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Nate, I've been watching this for years, and I've been wanting to say something, but it wasn't my place. She told me she was proud of me. Then she said something that hit me like a truck. Your parents love you, but they admire Kelsey, and they've confused the two. Admire versus love. 2 different things that most people confuse. They love me because I'm their son. But they admire Kelsey. They see themselves in her. They're impressed by her. They invest in her because she reflects well on them. I'm not a reflection. I'm just there. Reliable. Low maintenance. Fine. Aunt Patty just delivered the most devastating psychological read I've ever heard from a family member. That wasn't a burn. That was an autopsy report. She just explained 33 years of favoritism in one sentence. And the thing is, she's been watching it happen the whole time. Everybody saw it. The neighbors saw it. The extended family saw it. The only people who didn't see it were Rick and Diane. Because when you're the ones holding the spotlight, you never notice who's standing in the dark. I'd been in the dark my whole life, and I just flipped the switch. Whether my parents can handle the light, that's on them. A week and a half after the dinner, my mom showed up at my house. Unannounced. She brought banana bread, which felt like a peace offering. It's always banana bread with moms, isn't it? We sat at my kitchen table, the table I bought at a thrift store when I first moved in, and refinished myself over a weekend with sandpaper and polyurethane I got on sale at the hardware store where I used to work as a teenager. Everything in my house has a story like that. The bookshelf was a Craigslist find. The couch was from a coworker who was moving. The kitchen faucet I installed myself after watching a video online. I built this life piece by piece, dollar by dollar. I think that's why the check hit so hard. It wasn't just money. It was the reminder that some people get pieces handed to them while other people have to scavenge. My mom looked around the kitchen like she was seeing it for the first time. Maybe she was. She started talking about how hurt she was, about how she never meant to play favorites, about how she and my dad had just been trying to help Kelsey get on her feet. I let her talk. I didn't interrupt. When she was done, I said, "Mom, did you help me get on my feet?" She paused. She said, "You didn't need help, Nate. You were always so independent." I said, "Mom, I wasn't independent. I was ignored. There's a difference. I became independent because I had to be, not because I wanted to be. Every time I needed something, Kelsey needed it more. Every time I achieved something, Kelsey's achievement was bigger. So, I stopped needing. And I stopped telling you when I achieved things. And you guys stopped noticing." She cried. We sat there for a long time. She didn't argue, which is the only reason I think there's hope. If she'd argued, I would have known she still didn't get it. But the silence, that long, uncomfortable, years overdue silence, that told me she was finally hearing it. She left after about an hour. At the door, she hugged me and said, "I'm going to do better, Nate." I said, "I hope so." Final update. That was 3 weeks ago. I want to add one thing that happened between my mom's visit and the next family dinner. I was at the grocery store Tuesday evening, doing my usual shop, and I ran into a family friend, Mrs. Keller, who goes to the same church as my parents. She grabbed my arm in the cereal aisle and said, "Nate, I heard about what happened. Your mother told me you had an outburst at dinner." I said, "Did she tell you what the outburst was about?" Mrs. Keller paused. She said you were upset about a gift." I said, "She gave Kelsey $15,000 for a house after giving me nothing when I bought mine." Mrs. Keller's face changed. She said, "Oh." Then she said, "Oh, Nate," and she hugged me right there in the cereal aisle. I wasn't expecting that. It was the first time an adult in my parents' circle had acknowledged what I'd been feeling. In a grocery store, next to the Cheerios. Life is weird sometimes. We've had one family dinner since. It was awkward. Nobody mentioned the check, the house, or the dinner. Kelsey and I made small talk about a show we both watch. Bryce talked about taxes. My dad asked about my truck. It felt like a first date between people who've known each other for 3 decades. But there were small things. My mom asked about my raise. She asked how the house was doing, if I needed help with anything. She asked about my vegetable garden, which I'd mentioned once in passing months ago and didn't think she'd even registered. She remembered, or she's trying to remember now. Either way, it's something. She also offered to bring over some of her tomato plants, the ones from her garden that aren't doing well. I said, "Sure, we'll have bad tomatoes together." It's not a rented restaurant or a custom cake, but it's a start. And for the first time in 33 years, it feels like she's trying to see me. Not just love me from a distance, but actually see me. I'll take bad tomatoes over invisibility any day of the week. Oh, one random thing. Bryce sent me a text last week. Just him, not from Kelsey. It said, "Hey, Nate, just wanted to say I respect what you did." That took guts. I didn't expect that from Bryce. Told you the accountant is full of surprises. Kelsey and I haven't talked about it privately. I think she's processing. I don't blame her. Finding out you're the favorite isn't as easy as it sounds. It comes with its own guilt. I think she's a good person who grew up in a system that wasn't fair and didn't know it wasn't fair until someone said it out loud. I don't hate her. I never did. I hated the disparity. And now that it's been named, maybe, just maybe, it can start to change. My dad and I had a separate conversation about a week after Mom's visit. He came by under the pretense of checking my furnace filter. He does that sometimes, dad stuff. We stood in the basement, and he said, "Your mom told me what you said about feeling ignored." I said, "Yeah." He was quiet for a while, fiddled with the filter. Then he said, "I didn't know it was that bad, Nate. I thought you were always so." He trailed off. I said, "I was always so what?" He said, "You were always so okay with everything." And I said, "Dad, I wasn't okay. I just stopped telling you." That one landed. I could see it. He didn't say anything else about it. He put the new filter in, checked the water heater, and said the house was in good shape. Then, as he was leaving, he stopped at the door and said, "For what it's worth, your house is better than anything I could have built at your age. You did good, Nate." He didn't say bud. He said, "Nate. Small thing, big thing. I still have my house, still have my truck, still packing lunches most days. Old habits. Still nobody's favorite. But I'm not fine anymore. I'm honest. And honestly, that feels better. I spent 33 years being the easy kid, and all it got me was invisibility. Being the honest kid is harder. It's messy, eh? People cry at dinner tables and send you disappointed text messages. But at least they see you. And being seen, even when it's uncomfortable, that's better than being fine. I've been spending more time on the house lately. Fixed a squeaky step on the front porch last weekend. Put up a new mailbox, one of those nice cast aluminum ones. Planted some hostas along the walkway because my coworker said they're impossible to kill, which sounded like my kind of plant. Every improvement I make, I think, I did this. Nobody funded this. Nobody handed me an envelope. And it's mine. Kelsey and Bryce are still house hunting, by the way. I hope they find something good. I mean that. Having your own place changes something in you, even if you had to fight for it. Especially if you had to fight for it. So, here's my question for you. If you were in my shoes at that dinner, when your mom asked if you were happy for your sister, would you have said something right there and then, or would you have pulled your parents aside privately later? I really want to know what you think.